If you're a real estate agent that is seeing your listing sit on the market a little bit longer than normal, what is it that you can do to make your listing stand out, especially in this post-NAR settlement environment? This is the video for you. As we return to normalcy in the real estate market and with all the changes that we've seen in our industry, there are a couple of things that we need to get back to the basics on, and understanding that there's a reason why you had cross arms for real estate signs instead of just little things that you put in the ground. It's because typically, when we were doing the cross arms back in the day, the reason we did it is because it was going to have to be there for a little while. So we're seeing that now as we get back to the average days on market increasing in most markets across the country. There's a couple of things we can do to make our listing stand out, especially in this post-NAR environment. I'm going to start with number one, and I'm just going to get the elephant out of the room. Number one is in this environment, making it as clear as possible to buyers agents where you're providing them the information about not just the listing, but the potential or what the opportunities are as far as compensation that is being offered by the seller for them as the buyer's agent is absolutely critical right now. Now listen, we can debate all of this. There's different situations, but one thing I will say, if your seller is offering compensation to the buyer's agent, it's going to widen the pool of opportunity for them to show more houses. In some of these environments where we're seeing inventory go up, obviously, if there's majority of the people are still offering compensation on the seller side to the buyer's agent, then from that standpoint, we're going to be in an environment where you could be putting your seller at a competitive disadvantage if you're not offering this. Again, it's not every situation. Every situation is different. However, if you're looking to cast the widest net possible for your sellers, understanding how to present this in a way where they're focused in on their bottom line and making sure their bottom line is the number they're focused on, it doesn't matter to them whether there's compensation paid on the other side as long as we get to that bottom line. Now, every seller's different as well, but our ability to make it easy for those buyer's agents to understand the compensation that's available and also the information about that listing is a way that we can make our listing stand out. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do this, okay? Number one is, one of the biggest frustrations that I've had recently is I'm talking to and I'm setting up showings for certain houses. I may send out to 7 different houses to show those houses, and I may not hear from, I hear from 5 agents, a couple of them very quickly, a couple of them it takes a little while, and then 2, in the last group that I did, I didn't even hear from them until 2 days later when I asked them again if I could get information about showing their house. That lack of communication makes it very easy for a buyer's agent to basically just say, well, I couldn't get a hold of that person. We want to make it very easy for those buyer's agents. So you want to make your listing stand out? Have a PDF ready with all the information about your listing. Make it easy for them to get that information. Make it easy for them to set up showings on your place. Have a text ready. Have an email ready that just basically has, here's all the pertinent information about the house, cost to own. It has all the information about the buyer agent compensation that's being offered by the seller, if there is any in that case. Also, what are any of the details? A survey if you have it, any type of home inspection, all the things that can make it easy for a buyer's agent to give more value to their buyer, makes it easy for them, and it's going to make it easier for you to have your listing stand out in an environment where a lot of agents just simply aren't following up. The second step in this process of making your listing stand out is to take off, and I heard Mark Stark say this, great leader out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He said, take your hat off of being a realtor and put on your hat as being a buyer. What is it that you can do to be thinking from a standpoint of the buyer's mentality instead of you as a real estate agent? So what are those things that buyer is looking for? Where are they going to be? Who's the ideal buyer for this property? If it's the ideal buyer is someone that spends the majority of their time because of their age or because of their demographics on Facebook, then you should be focusing in the majority of your marketing to be on Facebook. If they're YouTube, if they're Instagram, if they're TikTok, whatever it is, think about who that ideal client is and start thinking about those things. Now, once we know who they are, think about what it is that they are most going to fall in love with or that they are going to love about this specific house. If it's the location because it's near schools or it's near, any type of amenity, focus in on how close it is to that amenity. If it's that it has an open floor plan because that's where families can live or whatever it is, focus in on that. If it's because of the outdoor space with an outdoor kitchen or a pool or an amenity that somebody's going to really love, focus in on those situations and highlight those in the marketing you're doing. Speak the language to those folks that are actually going to be the ideal buyer for that house. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't do typical marketing, but what it does mean is that we spend the majority of our time and our focus in on those ideal clients that we're looking for this specific property. The next step is to understand that you can only launch a listing one time. So basically, you got one shot here. So what do we do in a way that makes sure we maximize the opportunity for the ideal buyer to find the information, or their buyer's agent to find the information about this home or this listing that you have. Now, I want to think about it the same way that Jimmy Mackin taught me, which I thought was a brilliant way to think about it is, if you're thinking about the way that you would launch something, or that you would have something that would have a great start, because typically the way it starts is going to make a big difference on how it's going to finish, is he uses the analogy of doing it like a movie launch. So what do they do when they launch a movie? The first thing they do is that they have a pre-launch where they start talking about it well in advance, as much in advance as they can. So they'll actually go out and the actors will do interviews right before, or just a couple weeks before the actual launch of this place, to let people become aware of this. Now, what can we do with a listing that we have? Now, a couple things you can do. One of them is very effective, is to have a green screen video where you're like, I'm working on a listing, and you have a green screen video on Instagram behind you of a map of an area, and you say, it's going to be in this area. Now, I can't get you all the details until we have it actually on the MLS, but I wanted to make you aware of this because this is one that we see a lot of interest in typically. If you're someone that knows of someone, or you'd be interested in knowing more information about this, simply direct message me and I'll be glad to get you the information as quick as possible about this place so that you'll be one of the first people to know about it. Now, this is a great way to prepare the pre-launch. Another way we like to do this is that, hey, we're waiting on the photographs, but we make a phone call, or we actually go out and we do a mailer, or we just door knock in a neighborhood where this is going to be. This is the language that I like to use in that case, whether it's on the phone or it's a door knock. Hey, I'm Jimmy Burgess with the Burgess Team Real Estate. One of the things that we're doing is we're letting the neighbors know, because we are getting ready to list a home a few doors down from yours in your neighborhood. Now, what we found is that a lot of times in a great neighborhood like yours, the homes move relatively quickly, and a lot of the people that live in these neighborhoods love them so much, they might have a friend or family member that might be interested in possibly knowing about a home that comes on the market in there. If that's the case with you and you'd like for me to share that information, I'd be glad to do so. By the way, would you like the details about this before we get it on the market? Then you just have that conversation with them. At the end of this, whether their house comes up or not, because this is a way that we're turning not just this listing, but we're launching this listing, making it stand out, but we're making our business stand out as well. At that point, one of the things that we want to do is before we leave, if it never comes up about their house, by the way, I'd be the worst realtor in the world if I didn't at least ask if there's a price where you guys might consider, because we're anticipating we're going to have a lot of activity on this house, and I know there are probably going to be some people that are going to miss out that wished that they had had the opportunity to buy in this neighborhood. You see, we've opened this up and we just be quiet and listen to what they say. This one line is going to give you the opportunity to have more meaningful conversations about when and if these folks might consider selling now or in the future, and it's going to help you build a log of other people that may be ready to list now and into the future. So once we've done our pre-launch things, what we're going to do also then is we're going to do the day before launch. If you notice, there's a blitz of media right before, on the Wednesday, Thursday, right before the Friday launch or the Thursday launch of a movie. And so right before it goes into the theaters, they do a ton of advertising. So this is going to be this. Get ready. Tomorrow, we're going to be going live, and this is something you can do on Instagram, on Facebook. This is something you can do in all these different areas. It's going to give you the ability really to reach a different group of people in a different way. We're going to be going live tomorrow with a brand new listing in this neighborhood, and the details will be available first thing tomorrow morning. If you're someone that knows of someone that wants information about this place or might be interested, now's the time to forward this on to them, to let them know about this, or direct message me and I'll be glad to get you the details so that they can be one of the first people to see this as it comes on the market. Again, we're doing the pre-launch. And then the launch day. What is it we do the launch day? Now, there's a couple things that I like to do on launch day. One of the things I did in the past was I talked about the Chick-fil-A on Sunday listing presentation, where you would actually go in and you would utilize ChatGPT to help you put together a marketing plan for launching a listing. Now, a couple things this will do is, this gives you the ability to have something that would go on Facebook, something on Instagram, something on LinkedIn, possibly on YouTube, TikTok, wherever it is. We want to maximize the exposure of this listing where it seems like the people that are out there, anybody that gets on social media that day, anybody that checks their email that's in our database is going to find out about this listing, and they're going to be like, man, this listing is everywhere, and it's going to stay top of mind for them. What we're going to do is we're going to go into ChatGPT, and we're simply going to say this. We're going to take the description we have for the house, and we're going to put that in there, and we're basically going to say this. Please provide me with an SEO-optimized Facebook post announcing the bringing to market of this new listing at the address with the following MLS description. And then we're going to let ChatGPT give us that Facebook post. It's going to give us emojis. It's going to give us hashtags, everything we need. We're going to pair that with 4 of the best pictures we've got. We're going to have our Facebook post. The next thing we're going to do is right below that is we're going to simply say, now convert this to an SEO optimized Instagram reel script, launching this as a new listing as well. Now it's going to give us the Instagram reel script. We're going to shoot that Instagram reel video. We're going to absolutely launch the listing on Instagram. Then we're going to say, now convert this to a LinkedIn SEO optimized blog post announcing this is a new listing coming to market on this day. We're going to have the LinkedIn post we're going to post. Now we're going to say, now convert this to an SEO optimized YouTube video script that's going to give us the ability to do a 1 to 2 minute video announcing this as a new listing. Again, we're going to utilize this. We can shoot this in front of the house. You can get as detailed as you want in this. But basically what we've done is now on the day of the launch of this listing, we have exposed this thing out everywhere. We did a pre-launch. We did a blitz right before the day before, and now we're doing the blitz on the day of the launch. Now what this is going to do is this is going to create momentum for this listing in a way that a lot of people don't think about. The other thing they do is with the success they have on the first part, and typically if you're doing this correctly in this market environment and it's priced correctly, you're probably going to get some action on this listing. If you do, then what they do also is they have the next week, if it's a success, they come back and they do on the movie premiere, they say, this past week we broke all box office hits with these types of things. And you're going to highlight, we had an open house that had 32 people come through. We had 2 offers that came in. We went under contract. And I'll be glad to get you the details on this once it is public, once it actually closes. If you're someone who is considering selling your home and want to know what we did to absolutely build as much momentum pre and at the time of the listing to sell this home at the highest price possible with the least amount of hassles, feel free to reach out. What we've done is we've created an environment where a lot of people just market when the place comes on the market. What we've done is we've taken each of these, as Jimmy Mackin calls them, marketing moments and marketable moments, and we're actually talking about the process through this, and we're gaining exposure not just for the listing, but for your business as well. Now I want to go a little bit deeper on what we were just talking about on the exposure portion, because that's really the next point. We want to maximize the exposure, and what I do is I use an acronym here, the acronym SNAC, which is SNAC, to really talk to you about the different people that you're going to want to expose this listing to in a way. Now this is if you've had one that sat a little bit longer also. Where do we want to relaunch this? Because ultimately if it hasn't sold, at some point you're going to have that discussion with the seller about what it is that you need to do to reduce the price. And instead of just asking for a price reduction, what I like to do is to come with a plan of action. We're not just asking them to do something. Say, listen, this is a partnership here. So the market is telling us without saying a word, because we haven't had many showings, that it's not going to yield the price that we have it listed at now. Now, based on this information, this is my suggestion is that we work together to get a price reduction. Now, let me tell you what that does is that creates a marketing moment for me to relaunch your listing in a way that's going to gain the most exposure for it and also highlight this price improvement that we're going to make to your place so that we can hopefully get this thing sold very quickly. Now, I talked about that acronym, that SNAC. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the S in this, and that is your sphere of influence. This is your database. These are the people that you know. A lot of times this is a great touch point for some people as well, whether it's a new listing or it's a price reduction. So the sphere of influence, we're going to reach out to them a couple of different ways. Number one, in your database. Any listing you take, any price improvement that you have, you should absolutely be emailing your entire database to let them know about this, especially if you've got it segmented in a way where you have specific types of buyer potential people that are looking in that price range or that have indicated they might be looking in that price range. And we're going to do this via email to the database. We're going to do this also through text to a certain group of people. And then what I like to do is those people that are closest to us, make sure that we make a few calls. I like to have the 10 number of calls to people in your sphere of influence. So let me tell you who this might be. Number one is those folks that you think might have the most likelihood to send you a referral. So who are those people in your sphere of influence? And this is what something like that would say is, hey, this is Jimmy. It's been a little while. I just want to check in with you. Man, I am actually getting ready to list a place that I'm going to take to market here in about 3 days that is going to be highly sought after. It's over in this area. It has these amenities, and this is very sought after. So what I was doing is I just want to call about 10 people because this is one that I just don't want just let happen because I know there's somebody this might fit for. Is just make you aware of it in case you know of somebody that maybe has been looking and hasn't been able to find something. This might be a win-win for the seller and also for them. So I just appreciate you keeping it in mind, and if you think of anybody, please let me know. Again, this is a great touch point. It gives them the understanding that you're out there hustling. Plus, it gives them, like you're giving them a little bit of this inside ball, I guess you could say, where you're letting them know something before it's out there that my friend Brad McCallum says. So what is it that we can do with that sphere of influence to make sure that they all know about this and that we're either relaunching this with a new price improvement or we're launching a new listing in a way? The second group that we're going to link to is the end portion of this, and these are the neighbors. What are the neighbors that are in the neighborhood we are? Now, again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that it's not just you launching this listing, it's giving you exposure to have access to those sellers who can give you that next listing as well. A couple of ways we're going to reach out to the neighbors. We're going to door knock, which I talked about a little bit earlier. We're going to make phone calls. We're going to send a mailer. I think doing this in a way, especially where we're letting them know about it via mail, and more touch points you have with them, the more likely you are to be seen as the resource for that person in that neighborhood that's thinking about selling as well. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's simply a call if you just want to make sure you have the opportunity to potentially know about this in case you'd like to choose your neighbor. Reaching out to those neighbors is a great way for you to make contact, prepare yourself for the next listing, and also launch your listing at the highest place possible as far as the exposure you're getting. The A in this acronym is agents. Now more than ever, we need those agent relationships, and I'm going to get into that in the next step a little more detailed, but I like to have an agent group that I can email out all of my new listings and the price improvements. A lot of MLSs will have these. We have a Google group in our local area where you can just send this out to let agents know about any price reductions or new listings or exposure about something that you have going on with that listing. Make sure you're absolutely letting agents know, because now more than ever, especially as we see more days on market and we see these things sitting on longer, we need those other agents more than ever to have exposure about this listing so that it stays top of mind when their buyers have something there. I'm going to get into this a little bit more detail in just a few minutes, but agents are critical in making sure that you're getting the maximum exposure for your listings. The C in this is the consumers. Who are the potential buyers that are out there? Those folks that would be interested in potentially buying this. Now, from that standpoint, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but this is just blitzing social media. This is making sure you're hitting everybody in your database that maybe just opted in that you've never even talked to. This is making sure that you're hosting open houses in a way that gives the ability for people to find this that are searching for houses to look at. So what is it that you can do? Think from that standpoint. First off, let's start with our sphere. Then let's think about some of the neighbors that are out there. Then we're going to talk to the agents, and then we're absolutely going to be speaking directly to those potential buyers or the consumers that are out there in a way that helps us maximize this exposure and get you not just this listing sold, but get you opportunities for listings in the future as well. The last step, and really in this post-NAR settlement environment, in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do right now is build more and better agent relationships. And this is not just in your company, this is everywhere you want to be as far as those relationships. Now, what I mean by this is a couple things. Number one is that I want to be known as the agent that is great to work with. Now, look, I'm going to absolutely negotiate extremely strong for my folks, but I'm going to be fair in these situations. I'm also going to be someone who's going to communicate with the other agents as much as possible with the information that I can communicate. I'm also going to be the person who returns their phone calls as fast as possible. I'm going to be the person that provides as much information on my listings as possible. I'm going to build and deepen the existing relationships I have. The other thing I'm going to do is if I've got a listing in a neighborhood, I'm going to do the research on who's the person and who are the agents that have sold places in that neighborhood in the past. Specifically, who is the top agent, if I'm not that person, in that neighborhood as far as bringing buyers. I'm going to call that person and I'm going to do a compliment, but listen, it is absolutely warranted in this situation. Hey, this is Jimmy Burgess with Burgess Team Real Estate. Just wanted to give you a call because we are actually listing a place in the neighborhood where you, as I'm looking at it, are the number one salesperson in the neighborhood. I just want to make sure you're aware of it because I know you stay on top of these things. In case you have someone who is thinking about buying another place in there, or you've got a buyer that's looking for one, I want to give you a heads up before I gave any other agent's information so that hopefully we can work together to get this thing sold as quick as possible and for the price that's fair for everybody, and that we can work together on a smooth transaction. You see, you're building bridges that way. And then any of the other agents, we've all got certain agents, whether they're with our company or others, that we know that we love working with and that we know are professionals that have a group of buyers. Reaching out to them and saying, hey, I want to give you a heads up before everybody else, just so you know that I'm getting ready to take this listing live. Here's the details. I just want to let you know because I know you actively work with a number of buyers. I've loved working with you in the past, and I want to just make sure that if there's a way for us to work together to help your buyer and to help my seller get what they ultimately want, then I'm all in and I'd love to work with you again. This gives us the ability to build relationships, deepen existing relationships. And let me tell you what happens when you give them a heads up on a listing you've got coming. They ultimately also begin to give you heads up on their listings, which helps you not just with this listing, but gives you the ability to serve your buyers at a higher level into the future as well. You see, when we build more and deeper relationships, we begin to see our business grow, and it gives us the ability to effectively serve our clients at the highest level possible. Ultimately, this is all about serving those clients at the highest level possible. Everything we've talked about here gives them the ability to get more exposure for the listings, find that ideal buyer, be able to negotiate for the highest price because we've created a momentum and an exposure that brings more people to the listing, and it ultimately gives them the opportunity to have that sale that they've been looking for in a smooth way, utilizing you as their professional. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.